in his essay, Journey to Atlanta, that Black people are always aware of the enormous gap between election promises and their daily lives. In those days, Black people suffered the cancers of racism and economic inequality, segregation and poverty and classism, educational inequities, militarism, and vigilante police and state violence. 20 years later, in May 1968, at an interracial, inter-ethnic, cross-class Mother's Day march organized by welfare recipients in D.C., Coretta Scott King said, "It is not an easy way. It is not an easy way. It is not an easy way, particularly in this day when violence is almost fashionable. And in this society where violence against poor people and minority groups is routine. I must remind you that starving a child is violence. Suppressing culture is violence. Neglecting school children is violence. Punishing a mother and her family is violence. Ignoring medical needs is violence. Contempt for poverty is violence. Even the lack of willpower to help humanity is a sick and sinister form of violence." Now, here in this 21st century, we find ourselves in a society where the masses of Black people continue to live lives structured by racism, economic, educational, and environmental inequality, and various forms of violence that hamper our ability to survive and thrive. So today we are here to step into the enormous gap together, step into the enormous gap. For in that gap is where the divergent economic, political, and social realities of Black people dwell. Sometimes unnoticed, often ignored, and way too often dismissed as simply their own inherent problems. Indeed, it is this disregard, this messaging alongside the muting of voices that struggle to give an audience to Black pain and needs and desires, which has given us the false appearance of unfettered inclusion in this proclaimed democracy of the United States. But if we truly, honestly, with keen eyes and sharp questioning minds, pay attention to the evidence of things done every day, if we step into the gap today and every day, if we look at the everydayness and the complexity of being Black, of being a man, a woman, a non-conforming gender identity person, of being an elder, of being a child, of being differently able, of being poor, of being a Christian, a Muslim, a Buddhist, non-denominational, agnostic, atheist, or spiritual, of just being, whatever that looks like for all of us. And if we consider and dare to envision change, then the question has to arise. What must we make freedom mean in a democracy that today still registers deplorable life chances for the masses of Black people, and indeed the masses of human beings on the planet? We need to ask ourselves, how must we instruct this democracy to behave? We must say to this democracy, you must guarantee and protect civil and political rights in the 21st century. Democracy, you must grapple with inequalities, including disproportionate unemployment rates, homelessness, underfunded schools, unsafe drinking water, lead poisoning, infant mortality, criminalization and incarceration of communities of color. Democracy, you must change policies and structures. You must, democracy. You absolutely must step into the gap between the promises that have been made and the realities that are being experienced. But even more than that, we must instruct this democracy to abide a sentiment that finds purpose, and that finds reason, and that finds value, and that finds joy in constructing a reality that actually extends to people too often demonized and marginalized and exploited the basic necessities of life. water and food, shelter and clothing, sanitation and safety, education and healthcare. We must instruct this democracy to recognize Black people's full humanity, to construct a new foundation, to provide ample opportunities for the masses of people to effectively achieve, not just achieve, not just opportunities, but to effectively achieve fully flourishing lives. Today we say we must be proactive. We must guide the change we want to see happen. We must be civically engaged in the tradition of September climate. We must lift up the mantle of participatory democracy and radical humanism in the tradition of elevator. We must lift up the concerns of the aggrieved and the most vulnerable, and the voices of the forgotten in the tradition of all the people whose names and struggles we may never know in all of our communities. We must honor the history of Black struggle for liberation, and we must learn from their lessons, be willing to hear the echoes, and carry on the unfinished business of solidarity and solidarity, of solidarity and solidarity. We must listen to the wisdom of the elders and tap into the energy and the thoughts and the ideas of young people. Y'all with me? Yeah. We are here because we believe in the need to create meaningful opportunities for rich dialogues that will critically engage beyond soundbites. The many issues that impact our lives and sometimes rest like boulders in our guts. Mass incarceration, law enforcement reform, childhood poverty and economic injustice, voting rights in 21st century disenfranchisement, cultures of violence, urban reinvestment in education. The spirit of Audrey Lorde. We are here because we believe that what is significant and what is urgent must be spoken, made verbal and shared. Tyrannies of silence and oppression must be broken. So today, at this first African American Town Hall, we, the Community Coalition Concerned for Black Life, with all of you and our invited guest, Senator Bernie Sanders, are purposefully stepping into the gap together to discuss the kind of democracy we want to see enacted, to listen openly, to hear fully, to question smartly, to ponder deeply, and to dialogue intentionally. Let us then proceed with freedom on our minds, call for transformative change stirring our souls, visions of equality and equity sitting like swallows in our throats, and action guiding our steps. Thank you.